Tommy, I've been pestering you to watch this and catch up on this show for so long now. I think since like maybe season 2 was airing.
Yeah.
And finally, you've done it. I didn't sense a whole lot of excitement from you when I made you do it, so I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. We'll obviously do a deep dive into season 4, which just wrapped up not that long ago, and we'll do a little, because we haven't spoke about our thoughts from the previous seasons. So I'm interested to hear what you've got to say on that. But we have mentioned Invincible on the channel before. We did our end of year sort of awards.
Was it your best series of 2025? Like season 3 was your best series?
I think it was up there amongst my choices. I don't think it was my number one, but it was certainly up there as one of my favorite TV shows of last year. And just off the bat, I'd say season 4 doesn't disappoint either, in my opinion, and it keeps to that level. And I was very happy with this season. So yeah, John, jump in, give us your general thoughts.
Yeah, sure. I think, oh man, this show, I am so glad we're talking about it because it's been a long time coming. I keep hearing you talk about it and how good it is. And I just fell off after season 1, I think. So I have so many feelings right now. And they all at once because I have to catch up, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like you were like, I was watching like all these different shows. I was watching The Boys. I was watching the new Daredevil season. I was watching the fucking Mole Shadow Lord TV show on Disney Plus.
For fuck's sake.
And you were like, no, we need to do an Invincible review. I was like, fuck, I'm on season 2, I think. I need to watch like hours and hours of Invincible. And I did, and it cost me greatly. But I'm happy I did, and I'm happy I'm here to share my thoughts. I wanted to start with my thoughts on the series as a whole. Like previous seasons, we have never really talked about this in depth, so maybe we should start with like our relationship with season 1 through 3, and then we can deep dive into season 4.
Absolutely. I thought the show lost you at season 2, if I remember rightly, but I might be misremembering. And I think that was the case for honestly a lot of people, because we had that terrible, I'm not sure whether it was because of just budget constraints or there was some writer strikes at the time, but they had that mid-season gap in season 2, and they split the season in half unintentionally, and I think it lost a lot of people around that mark.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, it was. I'm not exactly sure the reason, but it was production issues, and they split season 2 down the middle, and we know people were expecting a mid-season finale, but it was never designed to be like that. So I think season 2 lost a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I didn't remember that, but that might be it, because I watched season 1 when it came out, and I liked it. I found it fresh. I found it fun. It's an easy sell for people such as us. It's like a hyper violent take on classic superhero stuff. It's basically a Justice League parody, but with a serious tone and some very good ideas in world building and lore. And I guess season 2, that's probably it. Like I watched the first half. I didn't love it. I felt like maybe the animation quality dropped a bit, and then it ended like you mentioned. And then maybe when the second half came out, I just was watching something else and I forgot. And then you know how life goes.
Yeah. That's how because I watched the show originally with my brother, and he dropped off at that same point as well, and a few other people that did, because I think there was quite a large break. There was a massive break from season 1 to season 2, and then they had that mid-season break during season 2 as well, and they just lost so much momentum doing that. And like you said, there was drop in animation quality. I think the animation studio changed from season 1 to season 2, and also
you can feel that.
And I think they know that. Robert Kirkman, the Invincible team knew that, and now they are hitting a season a year, and they've done that for 3 and 4, and apparently 5 will come out next year.
Yeah, they've been pretty consistent.
But I think you see a sacrifice in the animation quality from season 1 to the rest. It's been a lot of talk online about it, and I honestly would rather that than wait 2 to 3 years between seasons, to be honest. That's my sort of general perspective on the animation quality. But
yeah, you know what they need to do? It's like, because the universe is so rich and there's so many characters that show up in this that don't really do much, because there's so many different threads and storylines, and like they should do like little spin-off shows on like the criminal underground or like a specific kind of hero that you only see in one
Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
And that way, if you have to wait 2 years for a season, but in the middle you have a little something that you can chew on that kind of like explores a different aspect of the Invincible world, maybe that would work.
They did do that in season 2.
They did the
They did
Adam Eve,
an
yeah.
Atom Eve special episode, which is like an offshoot that they did in the comics as well, and they did that to necessitate that gap, that extra long gap they had. And I'm sure, to be honest, now that we've seen the universe expand and the popularity's increased, I do think we will see some spin-off shows from this going forward. But yeah, I think at the moment that Atom Eve special was just to necessitate that gap, and now they're just wholly focused. I think they do 2 seasons at a time, production-wise, for the show. They work on it simultaneously, so it seems like they've got that scheduled down.
Yeah, like I don't want to be that guy that complains about the animation because everyone has done it in the past few years. I know it's like unexpected criticism of the show, and even the
Yeah.
showrunners kind of like know that that's a problem with the show. But I do feel like it does hurt the show in a big way, and I think part of it is the structure that they decided to go with. These 50-minute episodes, these hour-long episodes, and I don't think it's paying off that much. The animation quality in the show is embarrassing at points, and I'm sorry, it just is. And when they switch to the expensive animation for 5 minutes, it's so noticeable. It's jarring.
Yeah. It's quite funny because there's so many scenes where Mark will move and you'll see his hair, and like it's highly more production value
Yeah.
than before, and you're like, oh, something's about to go down, like crazy shit's about to happen. The
Exactly.
animation is leveled up here, like settle in, here we go. I've seen all the memes, the people complaining about PNGs just being dragged across the screen, and
Yeah, like
it's true. It's all there, and it's only progressively got worse, to be honest, as the show has gone on. Which is, I love the show, but it is something. It pulls me out of certain scenes for sure when I'm looking around in like council meetings, those kind of scenes, and you have the 2 characters who
yeah.
are talking are animated, and the rest of them are just completely lifeless and still in the scene, which is really disappointing.
And it's such a beautiful show in terms of designs, of like the design of everything, but the drawing style itself, this kind of drawing style looks so much worse than others when it's done badly, because it's supposed to be a very realistic take on like, anatomy and the way people
Yeah, but
move.
the animation has never been realistic to a degree. Do you know what I mean? It's never tried to portray like massive amounts of realism. It has the look of, and don't get me wrong, the comic looks way better, obviously, and it's completely different because it's still image, but it has the look of a Saturday morning cartoon show, and that's kind of the point.
I do understand that. I'm using realistic broadly in the sense of like the character design is realistic.
Yeah, it's not like hyper
Like
stylized.
take something like Rick and Morty. Something
Yeah.
like Rick and Morty, which, by the way, this show sometimes reminds me of like a serious version of Rick and Morty. But like Rick and Morty, I think, has some of the best and most fluid 2D animation out there. And they manage that because the characters are very simple. There's a few colors, few details. Morty himself is like 3 colors.
Yeah.
And the episodes are like 25 minutes. They can use the budgets accordingly. And I think the fact that they are doing this 8 episodes, 50-minute episode every season, they're like repeatedly shooting themselves in the foot. Just make a 25-minute episode, focus on the fucking Viltrumite stuff.
No. I get what you're saying. It would make it so much easier for them, and the production quality would be double if they half the running time of all the episodes. But kind of what separates this from other things like, other animated superhero shows is that this feels like a prestige television show, almost,
Yeah,
it feels
they
like a
do.
HBO show.
But it's just the length, though.
Not just the length, in terms of the scope you get, you get all this time to really delve into the psyche of characters so much more than you would. Obviously, maybe at the beginning, all these characters seems a bit overwhelming, but now we're in season 3, season 4 territory. These characters so many of them have been fleshed out so much to this point. There's so many interesting characters there, and I think that runtime does separate it and makes it feel more like the prestige TV of, Breaking Bad and things like that. It's like the animated version of that.
Yeah, no, I get that, and it's a fair take. And to be fair, I have to say this might also be the result of me trying to rush through the season to get to this review. I was watching a lot of episodes, and I guess you feel the episodes drag a little bit more when you binge them instead of just like, oh, this is my hour of Invincible this week. So maybe my judgment might be skewed, but I do think that Invincible as like a B plot problem. Whenever Conquest shows up, or like we have Nolan and Alan going on some side quest, that's the fun filler episode. But like anytime they do the B plot or the villain of the week stuff, that episode in season 4, we'll get to that, I guess. But like the episode where
the
he goes to hell and meets
Yeah.
with Bruce Campbell's Satan, which great casting, but honestly, that episode did not end. Like I was like, what's happening? Why is this episode taking an hour?
That is,
Like
it's definitely for me, that's the worst episode there's ever been of Invincible. It's wholly original as well. That's not in the comics. That's something that Robert Kirkman always wanted to do. He always wanted to do a Damien Darkblood side story in hell, where the characters go to hell, because that's like a comic book trope. And so he did it, and I've seen some interviews with him after the fact, and he's like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have derailed the whole show to go on this side quest for a whole episode to hell. Yeah, maybe not my best idea. And I'm totally with you, man. There's some episodes throughout the seasons that they do go on a B story, and you're like, oh my god, this is so less interesting than the overarching plot of the Viltrumites and what they're doing with that stuff. So yeah, they definitely do have a problem with it, but I think overall it still works. And I think, I've managed to avoid a lot of the spoilers in the comics because I'm so invested in the show. But I have heard this has a kind of Game of Thrones element to it, where all of these characters do converge.
Especially this season, I feel.
Yeah, all these characters will converge, and all these meaningless side plots seemingly will all become quite important towards the end of the story. Not obviously all of them, like the Kahor subplot throughout with the mummy guy. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not going to go anywhere.
Oh my god, man. I like that they have a sense of humor about it, and like sometimes they address it in like a meta way. And I agree with you, like they do want to feel like prestige TV. But like the reason why I'm suggesting a shorter runtime is because they clearly have to stretch the budget a lot to even afford that runtime. And it's a strange thing to me to complain about this stuff, because I don't usually complain about TV shows being episodic, right? Like that's the nature of a TV show. I much rather have an interesting story that happens in one episode and an overarching plot that kind of like develops throughout the season.
Yeah.
And that's what they do again in Rick and Morty. And the reason why I mentioned Rick and Morty is because in Rick and Morty, I love the one-off adventures. I love to start an episode and be like, okay, what kind of weird sci-fi premise they'll do this time? And it's very hit or miss. But when an episode is 20 minutes and you can binge a season in like a day, the good episodes stick out more than the bad ones. But when an episode is 50 minutes long and it's not about the Viltrumites, it's not about the war, it's not about the core conflict of Nolan and Mark and Debbie, and then maybe it's about some fucking Martian facehugger knockoff thing, or fake Hellboy taking you to hell to meet Bruce Campbell, it's a bit annoying. It's a bit much, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair, and I can understand those criticisms. But then there's a lot of those subplot episodes that I absolutely love as well. So it's give or take.
There's some memorable ones for sure.
Yeah, and some of the side characters are fucking great as well. So it's but let's go into, we've spoken a little bit about the general sort of overall thoughts of the show.
Yeah.
You caught up. Did you rewatch season 1 as well when you were doing this run through? Or
I mean, I did. Dude, I already had to watch 2 seasons and a half. I did watch a recap, but I remember season 1 pretty well because it was really memorable to me.
Yeah, season 1's amazing.
I needed a reminder of the beginning of season 2 more than I needed one for season 1, to be honest.
Yeah, fair. So obviously, so now you're caught up on the story. What were your thoughts on season 2 and season 3? Because season 3 in particular has some great stuff in there. So that was some of my favorite episodes of the show in that season.
Yeah, season 3 is good. I think the worst season is season 2.
That's exactly. I think that's the general opinion seems to feel that way. Yeah.
I think season 2 and 3 both have an issue of kind of like spinning their wheels a little bit. There's a lot of repeated scenes of Mark being sad because he killed someone or some
Yeah.
shit, and he
Yeah.
goes to
Yeah.
talk about it to his mom, and then he goes to Amber, and then he goes to Eve, and then he goes to Art, and he's sad. We get it. Find a different way of showing that Mark is sad and he's, burdened with this power that he has and the destiny that is unfolding for him.
But I suppose he deals with that in different ways in season 2 and 3. Season 2 is all about him so worried about him becoming his dad.
Yeah.
And then season 3 is so much of him being concerned with, oh, maybe I should be more like my dad and I need to kill these villains because they keep coming back. So I get it. There's lots of scenes, because I've rewatched the show now a few times, and there's lots of scenes where you're like, God damn, this is so similar to like him dealing with the grief that he deals with in season 4 or whatever. But there's slight nuances to that. But I suppose that's what you get when you're, like we said, the show's trying to do like prestige TV, and the whole ethos of Invincible is that, it's a Saturday morning cartoon show on the
Yeah.
surface, but you have a fight with a supervillain who's killed half of a city. There are going to be repercussions to that, and we should have to deal with that for a whole episode. And we deal with the grief, and it tries to add that element of realism to the superhero world, which is kind of what I love about the whole show, to be honest.
Oh yeah, that's its main thing. It's its main appeal is to be like, what if, and to sit with the consequences of that stuff being more realistic.
And I love that.
But yeah, it's, going through season 2, I guess I do wanna do a little bit of an Amber rant, like real quick, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I'm kind of happy she's not in the show anymore, and I don't know if she'll come back. I'm guessing she will, but I understand the character of Amber and what she's doing in the show. I'm not here being like, oh, she's so annoying. Mark is out there saving the world, and she's complaining about missed dates and stuff. Like, it's not that.
I mean, it is. It definitely is that too, because goddamn, that's annoying.
Mark is out there saving the planet, so you shouldn't be complaining about shit like that. But that's kind of her point. In season 1, she's supposed to be the realistic take on the superhero regular human relationship, the kind of stuff Marvel doesn't really address. But honestly, she is such an uninteresting basic character in season 1. And then in season 2, they do this hard pivot because I guess people complained about her being annoying. And she's annoying in the opposite way, because like every scene is just her being like, oh my God, like, you're out there saving the world. I'm happy that you're safe and I shouldn't be complaining. And it's just like, just pick a lane, girl.
I know. And when I go back and rewatch these episodes, they're very skippable scenes. A lot of those ones back then, I get the
And also,
gist.
Eve is such a more interesting character from the get-go.
100%.
And I know they want to create this little tension there, but I'm like, I know that he's gonna get with her. So yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't want to be the guy who shits on the female character because she's female. Debbie and Eve are some of my favorite characters in the show. It's just that Amber in particular was written very poorly, and I think performs poorly as well. Like Zazie Beetz does not do a good job with the voice acting, in
Do you
my
think
opinion.
so? Fair. I don't enjoy the character at all, really, but I think she does a fine job. And to be honest, there's not really anybody that I can single out as giving a bad voice performance, really, in the show. But yeah, it kind of feels necessary to build the character, and it's annoying. And I guess Invincible is a love letter to the superhero genre, so it is going to tread water that we have seen 1,000 times. How are you going to balance doing your homework and school and girlfriend with the superhero life? And we've seen that so much in Spider-Man and so much in everything that it does become so formulaic, but it is integral in building Mark's character in season 1 and season 2.
Yeah, as I said, I understand why she's there, and I understand why we have to go through the whole, should I go to college or should I just be a superhero? And, those kind of questions that a character like that would have to face. Of course, it makes sense. But then, you get to something like season 4, and so much more interesting and more unique and more nuanced.
But do you not think partly because that's the groundwork has been laid in the earlier seasons, and we care so much more about particular characters because they did such a sort of extensive job in those earlier seasons?
That's part of it for sure, but I don't think, I'm missing college classes because I'm saving the world arc is the most riveting way to do that. You can have that in the story and it's fine. It's a fine plot point to have for a couple episodes, but my memory is that it drags. And my main problem with the show, it drags at points. Like
that's
I feel,
fair.
and again, maybe this is a result of me binging it, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I get it. Let's move
for
on.
sure. No,
let's go back to the interesting stuff.
I totally felt that watching the show sort of concurrently as it's coming out and you're waiting week by week on an episode. When you get an episode that is more slow moving and has heavily Mark and Amber, it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, give me more Viltrumites. That's what I want.
Yeah. And then, like every once in a while it surprises you. I was like, oh, is this guy with the portals another fucking villain that I do not care about? And he's Angstrom, which actually becomes a pretty cool villain.
He's brilliant. Angstrom Levy, and also like Sterling K. Brown's voice as Angstrom Levy. Oh my god, it's so good.
Great voice.
His like especially they do the title card gag throughout the season, which it kind of grated on me in season 1, but now I love it.
No, I always want to see how they're gonna put the Invincible title card in there, and it's always fun.
Yeah, and one of his ones where he's like, I won't stop until I've killed. He is going so in. I loved it. Angstrom Levy, definitely one of the highlights of season 2. I loved his origin story. And I love the way we deal with, like, all the best or major plot arcs we have in Marvel and DC. We have them dealing with, like Justice League kind of characters. You have your street level crime. You have your multiverse storyline. Like, it's hitting all those major plot beats. And it's just, it's a show that's wrapped together of all the highlights of the best things of the superhero genre. And yes, Angstrom Levy was a great villain in season 2. Comes back obviously in season 3, and I loved the the Invincible War. I thought that was one of my favorite episodes. A crazy episode, and the fact that it's all packed into one episode is kind of crazy. Like you'd assume that would be something they'd stretch across a couple episodes,
like a whole season.
Yeah, but they just like, and that's the whole point. I've seen an interview with Robert Kirkman. He's like, he wanted it to be like a whole comic book's worth of story just jam packed into one issue, and it really feels like that. It's so chaotic and crazy.
Yeah, but when you have other episodes in your season that are a bit empty and rethread ground that you've already covered, and then you have these explosive episodes that is really cool, but you get very few moments with these characters and these variants of Mark that are really cool, and he's doing a great job like with the voices. And I'm like, oh, I wish we had 3 or 4 episodes with these characters, and maybe the action sequences would hit differently and would be more impactful. And instead you have these threads, and that someone is spying on Mark, and then we find out that it's Angstrom Levy and that he has this plan to get revenge on him, and all these Invincible come into our dimension, the dimension of Invincible, and wreak havoc. And there's Oliver there, and I really like Oliver.
What a great character. Yeah,
but I like, I understand the desire to kind of like do this really cool one-off that is incredibly violent and unique. But when the quality of the show is a bit uneven, you're like, oh, maybe you should have dedicated more time to this storyline because this is actually interesting.
Yeah, I guess that's where budget constraints come into it. I would have loved to have seen the Invincible War spread out across 3 episodes for sure, but that's not the intention of what the reason it was in the comic. And also, yeah, I guess it would just make the show insanely expensive.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah, no, I love that stuff. And then you get the crazy ending to episode 7. Your like crazy season finale moment type thing, and then at the end, oh my god, Conquest has showed up, and now we're having another season finale right afterwards. It was kind of very unusual, and just I mean, I loved it. It was such a weird choice.
That was crazy because each Invincible season ends with a big fight, but when episode 7 is already this huge worldwide fucking thing, you're like, okay, I guess we're gonna wind down and set up season 4 in the final episode. No, Conquest shows up and fucking destroys Mark.
And what an episode that was as well. Like, I like it when also the show really surprises you with moments. I like it especially with Eve turning into like X-Men Dark Phoenix. Like, that was so cool. Like, was not expecting that to happen at all.
I really love that.
And like all the dialogue between them, and it's obviously this guy who plays Negan, what's his name?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who plays Conquest.
He does a great job.
Amazing. And there's loads of, I know kind of the changes from the comics, and he has this big speech where he leans into Mark's ear and whispers to him about him being so lonely, and all the Viltrumites are scared of him.
That was one of the best
It was
moments.
amazing. And that was like a new addition from Kirkman that he added in to the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. It feels such an interesting little tidbit to add to the character.
Love that. Such a great line.
Because it really stands out from other Viltrumites that we've come across throughout the seasons. They just come and they have mustaches and they want to fight and then they leave. But this guy was very memorable and used sparingly too.
Yeah, used sparingly. Would have hoped to have seen him more throughout the season, unfortunately. But it's and like when he leans down and he's like, "Take that to your grave," and starts strangling Mark again. It's just, that was such a great episode.
And that's where they're really putting all the money is in that.
Oh my god, yeah. Animation of that episode's crazy. It's like literally a whole different studio came in. He's like, well, everyone looks different as well.
It becomes one of the best shonen anime that you've seen for 5 minutes.
No, I suppose we've given our sort of general thoughts. Now that you had reached season 4, who were your sort of favorite characters at this point? Like, what was your sort of favorite storyline that was keeping you engaged, or what you were interested to see in this new season?
I mean, I was so happy anytime Alan the alien was on screen.
Yeah.
I don't know why I find that character so endearing, and he's the one character voiced by Seth Rogen that really works for me.
I know. I was really thinking, I was like, Seth Rogen, and in season 1, I don't think he's quite found the voice of Alan. Like, he's a bit too Seth Rogen-y.
Yeah.
But now he's one of my favorite characters, and I love him. And Seth Rogen is doing a great job as well.
The whole thing with Nolan in the prison and teasing that he might go back to the good side, that was really interesting, and I was itching to see more of that. So that built my frustration when an episode would not spend time with Nolan or Alan.
I mean, season 3, I think you only get one scene with Alan and Nolan, and it's them in the prison where they break out, and you get Battle Beast in it, and so that's the only time you get with them. And I think that definitely is like a marker down on season 3, because for me, whenever Nolan's in the show is so much better. You know, he's the best character. He's got the most depth. He's having this kind of, I don't know whether you're super familiar with Game of Thrones, but he's kind of like the Jaime Lannister of this series. Yeah. And in terms of how can you redeem somebody so evil, you know, we've seen him in the early seasons do the most heinous shit, but oh my god, I want this guy to be redeemed. I want everybody to be friends with him again. Like, please take Nolan back. I love this guy.
He's those big puppy eyes.
And J.K. Simmons is just unreal as the voice, and he was originally brought in to be the voice of Cecil.
Yeah. I read that,
and then he read it and was like, no, give me Omni-Man, and what a great choice.
And speaking of Cecil, which is another great character that I really love, but I think this is something that happens in season 3, and it's the falling out between Mark and Cecil.
Yeah, that's kind of the crux of the first half of season 3, really, is their conflict.
Yeah, this felt a bit forced to me.
Yeah, because Cecil's like so in the right, it seems like, in the conflict.
Oh my god, yeah, like they were trying to cook up some drama out of fucking nowhere. Like you are telling me that the Nick Fury type of this universe, like the most secretive government agent who lives in the Pentagon, is keeping secret from you, and you're mad about it, and he works with some evil dudes from time to time in order to keep the planet safe, and he spies on you, who are the most powerful and potentially dangerous person on Earth, to make sure you keep being a good guy. Like, oh my god, how dare you, Cecil? Like, I do not understand why Mark would be so mad
Mark
about that.
comes across in this whole conflict as like a very juvenile teenager, which
he
is
yeah,
at the end of the day.
I guess
so
that's
I guess you kind of have that excuse, but he is, and at this point in the show, he's very black and white. There is no grey area with him, and it's like, yeah, you work with Darkwing's a murderer, you can't do that. like you work with the guy that makes the Reanimen, Sinclair, and he has a massive issue with that. And it's like, well, hey man, they just all saved your life at the beginning of the season. The Reanimen come down, they save them from Doc Seismic. Yeah, it, like you said, it feels forced, and it feels like Cecil is so in the right. And I only really like the conflict until once he reveals that he put that device in Mark's brain, that sonar thing, and it is like, okay, well, that is a step too far. And I like the whole Mark going to the Guardians and being like, robot, get this fucking thing out of my head, because Cecil's trying to kill me, and like their reaction to it. Like, there was still some good stuff in that conflict, and Cecil's one of my favorite characters in the show as well. Like, his handling of everything, his control,
he's great.
and he also has a lot of heart to him as well, but he has to do the things he has to do. Like, especially he has one of the best lines in the new season, where he's like, Mark, I will make the choice. I don't sleep anyway. If you want to kill someone, let me make that choice and let me deal with that burden. Like, you don't have to deal with that. Like, I just love the way he does that stuff.
Yeah, he has a few great lines. I think it's season 3 that we have like the little flashback episode with him,
that was
where
it.
we see like his origin story, and there's that line where it's like, you can either be the good guy or save the world, one or the other. And I thought that was simple but brilliant.
That was great. His MVP scene is in season 1 though, where season 1 episode 7, where Omni-Man has been exposed and Cecil's just like teleporting around him and like telling him, like, well, why are you doing this to us? And Omni-Man keeps like flying and trying to kill Cecil, and he's just like teleporting away from him in time, and he's like schooling him. Just the way he deals with like the superhero characters is so good.
Yeah, no, I love Cecil. Walton Goggins does a great job with him.
Oh, amazing. And I love his dynamic with Donald as well. Like, because they had that moment where, like, Donald died, and he didn't tell him that basically reanimates his corpse all the time.
I love that.
And he's, they have their big bust up, and I loved all that stuff. And so you do see him do some pretty cold shit, but at the end of the day, he then spoke through it with Donald and was like, hey, this is what you wanted me to do for you, basically. So yeah, he is pretty much a wholly good character, really.
Yeah. Other stuff that I like Mark and Eve. They feel like a couple. I enjoy everything about the relationship and how they do it, even though, as I mentioned, there's a few repeated scenes of, oh, Eve, I'm so sad. I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, oh, I also have problems, and my father is a prick.
Her dad might be like the most stereotypically evil character in the whole of the Invincible universe.
Oh my God. I hate him so much. And he's designed to be hated, so I guess
it's
that's
on
fine.
the nose. Like, he'll walk in and be like, oh, you people. He's like, he's so racist. The superheroes.
You have powers and you think you're better than me?
So you want to give me all this free money and free food? No, fuck you.
Yeah. What else I like? I like Oliver, as I mentioned. Is each season they do something different with him. First he's a baby, and then he's a kid who doesn't have like full control of his powers, so he might be dangerous. And then he's a rebellious teen. So I like that. I thought that they're doing a good job with him.
He fucking smushes the Mauler twins. That was such a good episode where he like kills them, and he's like, hey, I want to kill the bad guys.
I was so surprised because actually the Maulers, is that their name?
Yeah, the Mauler twins.
I love that character. It was so much fun.
They're such good characters.
I was so bummed. I was like, okay, he's gonna come back, because he has the cloning thing. Like, I was sure they would reveal that he survived somehow, but no, he's not back yet. So yeah.
I think that's the last we see of them. But it's a good way for them to go, because they're such a good recurring villain at the beginning, and their whole like, who is the clone? Like, I loved all that. And their like storyline that overlaps with Robot and Rudy's character, who is one of my other favorite characters in the show.
You mean Rex?
Yeah, I will not call him Rex.
When he changed his name, I was like, dude, that's too much. What are you doing?
I get it. It's a comic book trope, how characters take the mantle of the other. But it's just like, it felt so sudden. It was like, nobody's gonna call out how creepy this is. He's literally stealing everything about Rex. He stole his identity, stole his name now.
Yeah. By the way, Rex explodes. Fucking silly ass name, silly ass character that you are meant to kind of like hate at the beginning. What a redemption! I fucking loved Rex.
Do you think you could sorely miss a character called Rexplode from a show like this with 1,000 characters? And I do. I really miss him now. And like you said, what an arc he had to like get you on side. And again, Jason Mantzoukas as the voice is so good.
I was properly bummed when he died. One of the great examples of the consequences that the show can have and sit with because of the ultra violence and the kind of story that they decide to tell with these characters. So
Yeah, they do a good job in that sense because, like, there's some moments where a lot of the characters basically look like they're dead, and they'll have a month-long recovery process or whatever, and they'll be back again fine in the next couple episodes or whatever. So, but they also still kill off enough characters so you still feel that sense of danger within scenes. But
yeah, like
there are characters that do have significant plot armor, and especially recently, we are seeing Mark basically get killed every other episode.
dude, okay. I do have a bone to pick with that because, as I mentioned, the ultraviolence is a great tool because it raises the stakes more so than other superhero media. And the blood and the guts and the disgusting mutilations, it feels cool and fresh and new at first because you see all these realistic repercussions, to an all powerful alien crashing into a person or a building. Like that scene where when Nolan Omni-Man is it's literally holding Mark's head against a train,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
see everyone in the train fucking die. That's amazing, and you would never see that in like a regular superhero movie or show. But then at this point, when Viltrumites fight with other superpowered beings, they have this over the top, like, I'll pierce your body and guts will spill out, and I'll cave in your skull and splash your brains on the floor. But then you just have to rest for a while and you're okay.
Not everyone.
Yeah, not everyone, but like it feels a bit meaningless.
I know, and obviously Viltrumites do have like insane healing capabilities, so it makes more sense when it's Oliver, Omni-Man, and Mark going through that. But like, we see Rex explode, he gets like shot in the head at one
Yeah.
point, blood pissing out of his brain, and he still survives. And Shrinking
Eve as
Ray
well.
gets Shrinking Ray gets eaten by that guy, and like he swallows her whole, and you're like, oh, she's definitely dead. But then she comes out of his mouth and like is fine again in later episodes. I mean, obviously, Immortal dies like 1,000 times and always comes back. But that's
the
his
point
thing.
of his character.
That's his thing. And then same with Duplicate. Like they have like a fake out of Duplicate's death. So yeah, they sometimes do cheap out a little bit and maybe keep characters around when they shouldn't do, and they should kill off certain characters. But
or just don't kill them. The cool thing about a realistic take on this sort of stuff is that, you cannot just recover from Superman punching you in the face. But if I reduce you to a pulp on the floor and then you come back, then that's the equivalent of the classic getting shot in the side in any movie. Like when the classic wound.
Invincible's version of that is you have no face anymore. That's just a gash.
That's just a flesh
universe.
wound.
yeah. And they sometimes do it right. Like I think with Angstrom Levy, it works. Like because the technicians are otherworldly.
Yeah, of course.
They put his head back together and he shows like all those scars and stuff, and it makes sense. But like with somebody like Conquest, his whole face is caved in, and he looks exactly the same like when he comes back.
And he also has the same scar, but like no other scar.
Yeah.
But I did love the fake out in season 4.
That was good.
That was super fun when they zoom in on the place where they buried him, and you're like, oh my god, he's gonna come back, and then they just cut away. it's not. I mean, maybe it will come back, I guess, but for now they left him there. Yeah, not the whole show is like that. As you mentioned, there's plenty characters dying, there's dire consequences for stuff, but sometimes it feels like the background people can be vaporized, and that's fine. But when it comes to the main characters, all of a sudden there's always a way to bring them back.
Yeah, and I think season 4 struggles with that slightly, especially when the villains of season 4 are the Viltrumites, and it's like they are so powerful. So the power scaling is kind of off here and there, but that's you just have to do that for superhero storytelling.
Yeah, that's not
it's
a big
that age
deal.
old thing is, why doesn't Superman just do this? It's like, well, because the story would be over and there would be no story. So you have to have some contrivances when we're dealing with powers of this level.
Why can't you just take Space Racer to Viltrum?
That's exactly what everybody was saying. It was like, why did Space Racer just shoot Thrag? And it's like, well, because he's so fucking quick. He would have just dodged it. They didn't need to show that. I inferred that anyway. But yeah, there was so much of that.
Space Racer is such an OP character. I mean, he has to die soon, right? Like they can't, like, or at least they have to destroy that fucking gun, because that gun just tore a hole through a planet. So I guess, like there's no coming back from that. It's such a funny thing that like Invincible is like such a, there's this very serious drama happening, and then you'll have a character like Space Racer just
I think that's what I love about
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
That is what that's why it's so great, because it's so childish sometimes. But then, Space Razor has a scene where he like murks people with the Infinity Ray, and you're like, well, that was one of the fucking coolest things I've seen in any superhero thing. So they just balance that so crazy well, and it's yeah, I think season 4.
Yeah, we are talking about season 4 now. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, season 4, obviously, we're dealing with the overarching plot of the Viltrumite War. Finally, we finally got to like the crux of that. It's we had the warnings before from Anissa and Conquest, but now it's time, and like the war is beginning, and we get so much less of Earth in this season. I think for the first 3 episodes we're on Earth, and then the rest we're dealing with space stuff, which was great that that they went fully into that. And I think that the show, like I said, the show's at its best when it's dealing with the conflict between our main characters and the Viltrumites, and I love getting the backstory to Viltrum. I think it's in episode 2 we get this flashback to Thaddeus, Thrag, and Emperor Argyle in the early days of the Viltrum Empire, before the Purge and before the Scourge virus.
That was awesome.
That was amazing. And did you notice this? The voice of Thaddeus is obviously Optimus Prime.
Yeah, yeah.
And the voice of Emperor Argyle was fucking Megatron. It's so good.
Yeah, I read that. I didn't pick up on that, but I was like, that's a nice touch. But yeah, like, and on it, when the flashback starts, at first you're not really clocking in that it's a flashback, and then you're like, obviously this is a flashback because we know that there is not that many Viltrumites left. And then this guy comes in and he looks exactly like Mark, and I'm like, oh my god, are we getting a Nolan-centric flashback episode?
Yeah.
That was amazing. I wish it was longer. I wish they spent more time on that, because that was super cool.
Yeah, that's all. I think most of that is all original to the show as well. Like a lot of that, the episode 2 Viltrum backstory stuff. Like I don't think you ever see Nolan as a kid in the comics.
His parents rocking up and be like, okay, now you're an adult, we're gonna beat the shit out of you.
It was such a good fight as well, and look, like his mum, the way his mum speaks to him, and just like, oh, it's so brutal. And I think anytime like a lot of the Viltrumites are speaking to one another, like they get the voice patterns so down, like in terms of they're so matter of fact. It's like, especially I'm going to reference back to, it's like one of my favorite episodes in season 2 where Nolan and Mark fight the Viltrumites that come to Thraxa. And you've got like Lucan, who's like one of my favorite Viltrumite characters, the Phil Lamar's guy with the big belly. He's like, we fight, and if you die, then you'd never deserve to live. That's like their whole mentality. And it's like, and they think that about themselves too. It's like, hey, we fight, and whoever's the weakest doesn't deserve to live anyway. So that's how it's going to go down. And I just love that crazy mentality that they have.
Yeah, it really helps set them as these unstoppable force, because they do have such a unique viewpoint that they think they are superior to every other race, and they want to enslave the universe because they think that's their calling. Of course, they're going to look down on everyone, even a race of people that look almost exactly like them, and they can actually reproduce with. They're gonna be like, oh, you are just pets, and that's the mentality that makes them so terrifying. Should we talk about Thrag?
Yeah, let's talk about Thrag. I suppose also, because we're on, we mentioned episode 2. Like episode 1 is dealing with all the fallout from Conquest fight, and we're kind of getting Mark entering his like black suit Spider-Man era.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess, where he's like, I'm killing motherfuckers now, and he tells that to Oliver at the end of season 3, and the end of episode 1 of season 4, we get him killing the astronaut who keeps bringing back the Sequids, and that's like, this is his turning point to the dark side of Mark that we see.
I would have done the same, because I'm done with that subplot, man. I am so done with those fucking
I like the Sequids.
They were fun at first, but they've been used one too many times. I was so done.
Well, now it's done.
and now it's definitely done.
Because they were around in season 1, and it ends, and this is kind of the end of like the teen version of Mark. Now he has changed for better or for worse. But yeah, like you said, I suppose, is it episode 3 we maybe get a sort of an introduction to Thrag?
Yeah, we see it at the end of one episode, and he just says something ominous, and then we get a little bit more of him later on. But honestly, I did not get this character and what's cool about this character until the very end, so maybe we'll get to that.
Yeah, there was a lot of people, and I totally get it, because not necessarily like I saw spoilers, but you see, you're scrolling through YouTube shorts and like, hey, this is the strongest character in the Invincible universe, or like top 5 strongest characters, and like like Thrag's always like on that list.
Yeah.
And you see these really cool images from him in the comics, and he's like,
He looks so much cooler in the comics, by the way.
yeah,
Like,
his face is too flat and featureless
Yeah.
in the show. Like it just doesn't look great. But when episode 7 rolled around, he sold me on everything that Thrag is all about, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'm in.
he sold me as another Viltrumite who's of course really strong, and he's the strongest, so he's even more stronger than the other ones, and he's soft-spoken, so it's not like Conquest, because Conquest was not soft-spoken, it was crazy. So, like, it was different enough, but I was like, okay, what's special about him? And what's special about him is what we learn is calling is, like, he is guiding the Viltrumites. He wants his species, of course, he wants it to progress, to keep
Yeah.
going, and to keep pursuing that goal. He needs to guide the Viltrumites to do that. And so I just love how they show you that way of thinking, and how that way of thinking influences his decisions and leads to what I think is the best kind of like development for the story moving forward, the most interesting one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I love how much he treasures like Viltrumite life. There's so many moments where he could just kill everybody, and it's kind of like, I guess, the confusion throughout earlier seasons of the show. You're like, why don't the Viltrumites just come here and just decimate everyone, because they so easily can? And then we realize, oh, there's only 50, that's why they don't do that. And then also, not just that, Thrag he hates killing Viltrumites. He says that any Viltrumite life lost is, he feels the sorrow from it. So
yeah, they enslave other people so that they can use those armies to enslave. Like, it's if they don't want to do them themselves because they're above it.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's very good, and like, people were giving Lee Pace shit for his voice acting in some of it, but I loved it. And yeah, maybe we don't love it until episode 7 where he gets his big moments, but there's some, I thought he was brilliant, menacing. I knew he would kill the role because he's such great. He's got such a great voice anyway for those kind of characters.
he's great. It grew on me, like the performance itself, I think, grew on me, and then the character grew on me, and then I finally got him at the end. I think he does a great job. Like, it is different enough from other Viltrumites that we've seen. He's soft-spoken and quiet.
Yeah, there's such a calm demeanor about him, yeah.
So I think that was the intention with the voice, and I think it works. But the character doesn't work right away, especially because of the design. When I saw that image from the comic, I was like, we were robbed, man.
Yeah,
This guy
yeah.
does not look the part. Like, the face is too round.
He looks like he's got a little baby. He's got like a little baby face.
Yeah, he needs to grow on you. You need to settle into his demeanor and his features so that you kind of accept him as the menace that he is.
Yeah, but I suppose before the characters jump onto it's episode 5 where they head into space, and that's where we get the conquest fight. But before that, in episode 5, and this is what Invincible does so well, and I think that's why episode 5 of season 4 is so highly rated, because you get the first half of the episode is Nolan coming back to Earth and dealing with the consequences of what he's done.
That was great.
He speaks to Debbie, and what an unreal scene that is.
Best scene.
Yeah. And when she's punching his chest and hurting her hand, oh, it's amazing. And then he goes, speaks to Art, who's voiced by
Mark Hamill.
Yeah, Mark Hamill, and they have the beer. They have like a beer together, like old times. But he's like, "Hey, man, like, I'm not making you suits no more. You're not a hero to us anymore." And just Nolan's going on this apology tour around Earth. That's so good.
And then he leaves, and yeah, he's shaking because it was like trying to act cool, but actually was terrified of him. It was it was great.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. And then the second half of that episode is a massive space battle with Mark and Conquest, and so it's just a dichotomy of what Invincible does so well, dealing with the emotional side and also giving us those big action moments.
Did you love the space battle? Because I feel like
it was a bit brief, but like the Conquest and Mark fight too, not anywhere near as good as the first one, and it didn't feel like it had the same stakes.
Yeah.
But like, in terms of the actual fight sequence, I mean, it was great, and that gave you one of the most gory, disgusting like moments of the show.
Oh my god.
He's like pulling his innards out. And they have that shot where Conquest is coming down he's gonna like kill Oliver, and he's like throwing him down to that planet, and they get that flash flash as like Conquest like comes into the atmosphere and he's in front of the sun and he's like massive over Oliver, which is like one of my favorite shots in the whole show.
Yeah, straight out of the comic, I'm guessing, like that's
Yeah,
framing.
that was straight out of the panel. Maybe didn't hit as hard as the previous Conquest fight or anything like that, but I still thought this was a great episode. I liked that initial battle, and I get why they did it. Is to give us a reason for Oliver and Omni-Man to be together alone for a while, so we can get their relationship to recuperate slightly. And I love that too. Like, it led us down that direction, which was brilliant.
You know, I did like that. It's just that Mark is on the verge of death, and when you binge 2 seasons and a half of a show in a couple weeks,
I'm sensing the problem was that you just binged it.
yeah, no, I said that up front. I'm like, guys, this might be a result of me not watching the show as intended, but it's a story and there's repeated beats that I don't think should be there. And when Mark dies or almost dies every other episode, then you're like, okay, no, he's not dead. You know, he's gonna come back from this. And also, I guess maybe I'm being unfair because there are consequences to the fact that they have to wait 2 months for him to recover. When we finally go back to Earth in the final episode, there are huge consequences and ramifications for the waiting period, you know, like Eve and what she does. So I don't know, like maybe I'm being unfair. Of course, you know, a superpowered being is gonna recover from being split in half, basically.
You know, when else were you gonna get time that Oliver and Omni-Man could try and have some sort of relationship? I guess they just had to have a way where they could build that, and I thought it worked in that sense for the overall story. But yeah, and then in the next episode, the Viltrumite War begins. And like there's some great stuff in this episode, and this is the episode where also Oliver and Omni-Man are getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And you get the Viltrumites just go to Telestria to go and attack the Coalition. And it seems like a stupid plan, like it doesn't seem very well thought out by the Viltrumites, and they kind of ended up just running away. And it's like, I don't really know why Thrag was running away in that moment when he could have just gone down there and fucking annihilated everyone. And I suppose that's the problem with then showing how powerful he is in the next episode. But I get it. I think that's where the complaints. It's like, oh, Thrag's a bitch. Like he's and he when he jumps out of his ship and he's like, no, and he grabs the skull. Everyone was replaying that scene. It was just like, yeah, this is the guy who's supposed to be one of the best villains of the show.
Yeah, and I think it's all in the animation and the design of the character. But again, like, it grew on me.
Yeah, when you see the panel of them all flying away from Telestria, I think it is, and with where Thrag's holding the skull and all the Viltrumites are in like a V formation behind him, that panel in the comics looks unreal.
Yeah.
Whereas the animation in the show version of that just doesn't look as good. So,
and then, you know, like, we have this big battle in space, another one, and I feel like that was a wasted opportunity to have a cool backdrop to this fight.
Yeah, it's a shame, but I get it, because if you're thinking like tactically, Viltrumites have the advantage in space, so it makes sense that they'd be waiting there for them. And also, it gave you that fucking super cool shot where they go through the ring. They go through the ring of dead Viltrumites, which they show you in episode 2, which was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they dump all their dead bodies and it forms like a fucking Saturn ring around them. Like, I love that shot when our group of heroes are coming through that ring of characters and we see Thrag just there waiting for them on his own. You're like, oh my god. And then the other Viltrumites are hiding within the dead bodies around the ring of the planet. Like, that was so cool. But I get it. Like, it's not as interesting seeing them fight in space.
It's interesting at the beginning for the reasons you just listed, but then for the rest of the fight, it's just the same space backdrop and these characters moving around it, and it doesn't really feel like they are in space, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I was really just like waiting for the scene when one of the Viltrumites smacks them down to Viltrum, and then the rest of the battle all now happens on Viltrum, like the planet, which would have been better. It's like you said, would have been way more visually interesting. You can get them smashing through buildings and things like that.
I mean, they've done that, I guess.
Your budget's going up massively. Yeah. But yeah, I suppose we haven't seen loads of space battles, but it doesn't do as well as the ground battles for sure.
I don't know. Maybe that's definitely a nitpick. That's just me being mean for no reason. I really loved how they used all those weapons that they set up throughout the season. Like they go and gather these like lizards
The
and
Ragnars.
and then so Space Racer, of course,
And then the beetle stuff.
the Beatles, and they all do cool shit in that fight. So that was really cool. And Alan is cool, and yeah, no, it's a good fight.
I guess they weren't planning to have the fight in space as well, because Space Razor comes in and it's a really epic shot when he comes in and he's like, it's not my gun you should be worried about, and he's got like the Ragnars like attached to his
It's
bike.
definitely the gun though.
Yeah, and he like launches them at them in space, and it's like these Ragnars, they can't fly in space. So as soon as they get like one shot off, and then they're just drifting into fucking space afterwards. So I suppose that didn't quite work out to plan.
And
But I
Battle
guess
Beast as well. He has to have like a little tank to move around because he can't fly, which makes sense.
what a character as well. I mean, he's such a nothing character in a sense, but so cool. Like Battle Beast is just
He just
so
wants to
epic.
fight. He's
Yeah,
the
I
most
love it.
one-note character
Yeah.
ever, but it's
But it
endearing as
works.
hell. Yeah, no, I like him.
And they give him a little bit more to do in this season, like when he's sitting around the dinner table, and they're all like, "Oh, what would you have your last meal to be?" And he's like, "My last
blood
meal
of
will
my
be
enemies."
my blood as I choke on it before I take my last breath." It's like, yeah, that's great, that's great. They give all those characters their own little moments in the fight as well, which I like. They introduce Tech Jacket, and he saves Space Racer in a scene, and Alan gets his bits to do with Tech Jacket as well. So they give everyone stuff to do, and I think the best moment of this episode was when Thrag knocks Nolan down to the planet, and they have that discussion on like Viltrum, which looks like it looks like a graveyard, and it's this ugly place after the Scourge virus.
And you're like, maybe Nolan is gonna change his mind again, and yeah.
And then we get the fucking Dragon Ball Z shot as he like whips back that uppercut and sends Nolan into and turns him into a meteor. It's it's so good.
Yeah, and then they explode the planet, which was something that happened and was really cool.
I don't really understand the motivation for it, to be honest. And I think in the comics, it's Thaddeus's idea to do it. It's not Nolan's.
Yeah.
And also, in the comics, apparently, it's a 4 double-page spread of them going through the planet, which is really cool. And so they definitely translate that on the screen really well. Like, it's a long scene of them going through the planet and then the Earth's core and all the lava. I thought that was done really well. But yeah, like the motivation for doing it, it's just like Cecil's so right again in the next episode where he's like, you've just given them nothing to lose now, and now you have 50 incredibly pissed off Viltrumites with no home. So I didn't quite understand why they did it.
I guess if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense strategically, but you could say, like in the heat of the moment, you're like, fuck you, Thrag, I'm gonna destroy this place that you love so much.
Yeah. I guess it distracts Thrag as well. But it's it just seemed like an odd choice. But I liked the moment. It was a really epic moment. They built it up really well. And when Nolan's pulling Mark in to stay with them and be quicker as him and Thaddeus go through Viltrum, and then you get that epic moment. Once the planet's destroyed, that Lee Pace scream. He's like, no, and he pulls the rocks apart.
Yeah.
And just shoots across and rips Thaddeus' head off like instantly. That bit was so good.
Yeah, that was cool. And I was expecting Thaddeus to die.
Yeah.
He was the expendable one in that whole thing.
What a great character as well. Like I really love Thaddeus. Now that he's gone from the show, it's you get that really funny moment where like Oliver's like, this old man's coming with us, and he rips off his fucking shirt and he's like the most jacked dude. He's like, okay, yeah. And also like the reveal of him with the Scourge virus, I thought was a really interesting element in this season as well. Like him dealing with he didn't know how many it killed at that point, and Nolan tells him it's like you killed billions upon billions of Viltrumites with the Scourge virus. And so I thought that element that they introduced was really interesting. Yeah, I think it leaves us in a great place. Like, we obviously said the end of episode 7, the end of the fight. We get the Viltrumites disappear. You know, Thrag basically kills Omni-Man. He grabs Oliver's arm, smacks his jaw
Oh
off,
my
and is holding
god.
his arm as well. That was such a crazy shot. And he, you know, he basically has Mark, and he's going to kill him, but then he can see like how destroyed Viltrum is behind Mark, and he stops and leaves him alive. And you get that really cool ending to that episode where Mark's like, "Oh my god, they've gone to Earth."
Yeah.
It gives us a great setup for the season finale, and we get these like fake outs in the season finale, which I thought would be kind of silly, and like I could, it was so obvious where it was going. It's like, okay, one of these is going to be legit, and it's like, which is the one? And it was kind of obvious.
No, it was a bit annoying.
It's like, oh, is it going to be the one where he smashes Debbie's head to smithereens? No, that's probably not going to be the real one.
So it really works at first. Like, I think this is one of the best episodes, actually. Once you know where it's going, it's really well done. But at first you're like, okay, because, you know, the previous episode ends, as you said, with a cliffhanger. Oh my god, they're going to Earth. And then episode 8 starts with them rocking up to Earth and doing what you expect them to do. So like destroy everything, creating tsunamis and, you know, exploding stuff and killing people. And, you know, that's what you expect. But then you hard cut to Mark on the ship, like he was having this vision, but you're still not sure.
Yeah, you still think that might have happened.
Yeah, like maybe is not something in his head, it happened, and then you just hard cut to him because it's effective in creating this tension. Then they get to Earth, and it's fine, it looks fine, and you're like, oh my god, is this some kind of illusion? You know, maybe that was just in his head. And then you have the Debbie scene that you said, and I was like, okay, they're not killing Debbie like this.
No. Then they do it to Eve, and it's like, obviously that's not going to
They do
happen.
it to
Then they do it to
Cecil.
Cecil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just they probably could have taken one or two of those out, and also maybe do it to different characters or different scenarios, because we know Cecil, Debbie, and Eve were not dying in that moment of the show. Like, it just wouldn't have made sense. And if they had done, oh my god, how fucking mental would that have been if like one of those scenes had been real? But
I get what they're going for, but again, you know, they have to fill up a 50-minute episode, so, you know, there's gonna be some repeated beats. And I think, you know, if this episode was just 20 minutes instead, you could have had 2 fake outs and then the real one at the end, and boom. But, you know, like, there's some great stuff in here that would not fit in a 20-minute version of this, you know, like the conversation between Nolan and Cecil.
oh, that was amazing. That was so
Yeah.
good when they're standing at the crater, and he's like, you know, he's like all talking about all the pain he's caused, and he's like, at this specific spot or in general. And it's like, oh, I love
Take your pick.
that like back and forth was so good. And yeah, I agree with you. But I suppose on the other side of that, we get such a deep dive into Mark's psyche in this episode.
Yeah, no, you have a bunch of stuff. You have the stuff with Eve and the abortion.
And
Yeah,
he's, you know,
it's
dealing with the PTSD of everything, and he's like shaking and having these visions. And I think they went all in on that side of it, and it still worked for me. But like I said, it was a bit obvious.
is what I meant by saying, you know, this episode works once you know where it's going. Because when you're watching it for the first time, you're like, okay, you know, this is just a fake out, whatever. You're just putting some violence in an otherwise, you know, very subdued episode, you know, just to give me some blood. And I don't need that, you know, just give me some drama, interesting drama, and I'm fine. But then you realize what that is there for, because all those visions of what might happen if Thrag decides, you know, he could just do that in any moment. He could just do that. But the fact that then we find out that he doesn't want to do that because he wants to use the human race in a different way, instead of like as vengeance, as a way for Viltrum to prosper again one day by reproducing with humans. That is what puts everything in perspective and puts the decision that Mark takes of accepting that offer. I guess he has no choice. But
Thrag literally tells him, "I'm gonna tell you your future now," and I loved that setup.
I loved that ending. I already kind of like I spoiled it a few times throughout our conversation, but I thought it was such an elegant conceit. It's the kind of thing that is unique to this show and its rules. You know, you establish these people and how they work, and how, you know, that there's few of them, and how this character is so adamant about keeping this species alive and reclaiming their place in the universe, the place that they think they need to have. And it's such a cool development for the story. Like, this is a paradigm shift of huge proportions. Like, there's no way they can go back to villain of the week, Dr. Sismic, or whatever his name was, which was fun.
I think they will. There'll still be episodes like that, but I'm
I mean,
very
yeah.
interested to see now, like, well, it's like, well, now there's Viltrumites on Earth. Are, like, Lucan and Anissa and Thrag, are they gonna, like, help out to protect Earth? Because it's now their home too. So
They're
when there's a
gonna
big
become
baddie, are they gonna be
heroes. Yeah.
around? Yeah, like, it's so, like you said, it's such a unique decision
Yeah.
to do this, and it leaves the story in such a crazy place, and it could go in so many different directions. And yeah, because some of the best stuff about the earlier seasons is that looming threat of the Viltrumites, and now you think, oh, the Viltrumite war's over, now that's done. And no, it manages to keep that threat under the surface and still keep, like, move the plot forward.
Yeah, you see all these different Viltrumites that we've come to know throughout the seasons, and they are
Like fucking General Krieg's already become a biker, and he's like already fucking this chick.
he's
It's like, Jesus, he got to
he's
work.
like he's the one that makes sense. Like they should all do that. Like you just move around and have white nightstands and repopulate Viltrum that way.
Yeah.
The other guy, Lucan, is that name? Like
Lucan's wearing
is
a
just
suit.
going to work and maybe have a wife. Like what's the point? Like you just need to go to nightclubs and spread your seed, man.
Yeah. And, like, are we gonna get those scenes of, like, awkward Viltrumites, like, trying
Flirt.
to have sex with humans? Because that's gonna be great too. Like, what a dynamic, having Lucan, who's, like, literally is, like, the way he talks like a genocidal maniac, have him trying to, like, hook up with a chick in, like, New York. It's gonna be hilarious.
That
It's gonna be
could be
great.
fun, and a fun and twisted way to humanize characters that you would not expect to be humanized in any way. But they've done it with Nolan, and they've done it brilliantly. So, like after season 2, I was gonna watch the rest, but I wasn't like itching to. Oh my god, I cannot wait to see what's happening next season.
Yeah.
Now I'm really curious. Like I'm actually kind of like almost consider picking up the books, but I don't want to kind of like spoil myself.
Same. It's so annoying because I'm so invested in the story and I want to know what happens, but I am just gonna wait for the show because I'm more invested in the show at this point, and the show is doing something different. So, and then I'll read the comics once the show's out in its finality. Well, you want to know something crazy, and I'm sure you've probably seen this online, which if you were just a show watcher and you knew nothing about the comics,
Yeah.
we are only halfway through the story of Invincible.
I saw that. I saw the picture of like you are here with all the volumes.
How fucking crazy is that? I thought this was going to be second to last season territory because they've wrapped up the whole Viltrumite overarch almost. So it seems like that there's so much more story to tell. It just means like, oh my god, where can they take this? Do you know what I mean?
But this could go in so many different directions. You could jump into the future at some point because Viltrumites live for so long.
Yeah, and we do like a several 100-year time jump
Yeah.
or something, and
we've seen
later on.
like different futures and stuff, like different dimensions, and so like maybe that comes into play. So it's really really intriguing the way they've set it up, and as I mentioned, it makes Thrag like instantly, it makes him into an interesting character where it was just an bad guy was very powerful and can punch really hard. Now it has a unique stance. The fact that he is willing to do this truce because he loves his people so much that he knows, okay, these people, these humans, they are compatible with us. Even though I want to kill them all because of what they did to us, like I'm gonna do this. And, because I can do what I want, because if they don't let me, I'll just kill them. But I'll do this because this is the most strategic and like the best thing that I can do for my people.
Yeah, 100%. Like by the end of the show, you're sold on him as one of the better villains in the show for sure. Yeah, I think it absolutely sticks the landing, and like you said, sets us up for so many possibilities for the show to go. If you were to give season 4 a rating and maybe sort of a general rating for the whole series so far, what would you give it?
All right, so we've complained. I've complained about a bunch of stuff, but at the end of the day, this is an entertaining show. It's a good show. It could do with some better animation, and some of the B plots are not as well realized or as interesting as others. But season 4 was definitely on par with season 1 to me, so I think they're both 8.
Yeah.
And 2 and 3, they're a little bit lower. So I guess the general kind of like grade that I would give the whole show so far, it's a 7. But it's a solid show, and a show that I will keep watching now that I am caught up Finally. Thank you for forcing me into it, because sometimes I'm just, I just forget stuff. I just forget that stuff exists.
I know, and I knew I knew you'd enjoy it. It is, I think, if you enjoy the superhero genre, I don't really see, unless you're just not into animation whatsoever, I don't see how you couldn't enjoy the
Yeah.
majority of this. Because, like I said, it's a love letter to that stuff, and you get all the best moments from all your old favorite superhero stuff are all kind of within this as well. So it does that so well. This season is probably like an 8.5, maybe even 9 out of 10 for me, just with the high heights that it reached.
Yeah, all the Viltrumite stuff, the flashback with Nolan, and the ending, it's great. It's great stuff.
Unreal, and that we get the big payoff with like Nolan and Debbie's, and like Nolan and Cecil, you get his like a big payoff of his sort of redemption arc coming into frame. And Mark's a way more like enjoyable and well realized character at this point. Like we said in season 3, he's a bit annoying and juvenile, and I feel like I'm glad that he's now left all the school stuff behind him and he can just be a superhero now.
Eve is also in a very harrowing but also, interesting place as a character, like where she's gonna go from here, and their relationship as well. So
yeah. And like we mentioned, we've left it on the big sort of plot twist of the Viltrumites being on Earth, but there's so many other, and usually at the season end of the show you get this like compilation of things to come, but in this one we didn't get that, and I thought that purposefully, and it worked well for this one. But we still have so many of these other threads that are yet to be realized, which I can't wait for. We still have Angstrom out there, and I'm sure
Angstrom Levy is gonna be back.
Oh, he's gonna be back, and those Invincibles he trapped in that dimension, they're gonna come back, I'm sure, in some great way. And like, I love I'm interested to see where Robot and Monster Girl's story goes now they're trapped in the Flaxen dimension.
All right.
Fuck,
I forgot about that. Oh my god.
So I quite liked all that storyline. And I suppose just before we move on, my general, I'd probably give the whole series like an 8.5 out of 10 overall. And I love this, and I've recommended it to a lot of people. But just a sort of general comment on the show, goddamn, the music is so good. Do you feel this?
Yes.
I've got so many songs saved on my playlist from Invincible. It's amazing. Whoever is the music supervisor.
There's some great needle drops, and there's some great scores as well, just orchestral stuff throughout the show.
I think maybe, I don't know, because I think Amazon, similarly to like if you're making like an Apple TV show, like Amazon just has access to like a lot of the royalties for these things, and so maybe they don't have as much of an issue with getting music, because they use some really famous songs sometimes, and we get loads of montages like you said, and sometimes like Radiohead playing in it, and then there'll be like a lot of unknown artists they use throughout as well, which have discovered so much good music from this show, and just they are so on point with that stuff.
The music is great. All right.
So obviously we wholly recommend the show, the both of us. It's great, and we're both very much looking forward to season 5 of And is this going earlier on or at the beginning?
We're gonna put it throughout, like all throughout the video. I'm gonna do every time we say
anytime we say Invincible,
it's gonna be a title card instead.